Hey my friends, do you have stacks of Dollar Tree calendars just sitting there waiting to be used? Yeah? So do I. Today I'm going to share with you how to create 4 easy, beautiful DIYs using Dollar Tree calendars. Let's get started. For this project, we're going to be using a page from the 2025 calendar from Dollar Tree. And if you don't have this exact calendar, you can choose any pretty picture. But I just love this saying, just be kind, and the colors are just gorgeous. And we're also going to be using this wooden heart, and that's also from the Dollar Tree. I had this left over from Valentine's. We're only going to use the center part of the picture, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And off camera, I'm going to give the wooden heart 2 coats of Snow White from Waverly, and then I'll let that dry and we'll move on to the next step. We're going to be creating horizontal lines, and I want to keep them as even and as straight as possible, so I'm just going to use a little piece of tape as my spacer, and then I'll put down my strip of tape, smooth that out, and then I'll just repeat that same process all the way to the top of the heart. I cannot wait to share this next tip with y'all. I saw it a while ago and have been wanting to try it. To prevent bleeding with your horizontal lines, or you can do it with vertical lines, you come back in with the exact same color that's your base coat, which is white for me. You paint over everything. What it does is seal in the tape and seal everything in. Then let that dry completely. That's key. Let it dry completely. Then you're going to come back in with your color for your stripes. In my case, black. And then you're just going to paint as normal. And then whenever you remove the tape, it is amazing. I absolutely love this. I cannot remember at the moment where I saw this. If I remember, guys, I will make sure to link that person's channel down in the description box to make sure they get credit for it. But I'm loving this. I can't wait for you to see when I peel back this tape. This was just such a game changer for me. I was so excited when I pulled that tape back. My stripes always bleed, no matter what I do. So if you decide to try this, come back and let me know what happened. To attach the calendar page, I'm going to use glue stick, and it's just a plain old kids glue stick. I picked this up, I think, from Walmart. Of course, they have them at the Dollar Tree. You can use those as well. This works quite well with these calendar pages. I was a little worried that Mod Podge might cause the black on the heart to smear, and I'm in love with these lines. I did not want to take that chance, so went with something a little different, and it worked very well. It's very forgiving, and as you can see, I had lifted up just a smidge to smooth out any bubbles or air pockets that are up under there. Then I put a sheet of plastic wrap over the top, and I'm just using my brayer again to get around any of the edges and lines, just to make sure everything is adhered really well. And then I'll just come back in with my nail file and remove just the little bit of paper that's hanging over the edges and that's right in between the top of the heart. You can definitely stop right here, call this project finished, add a hanger and a bow, and it would be absolutely gorgeous. But I'm inspired by the flowers that's on the sign, and I'm going to take it one more step. We're going to give the flowers a 3D appearance. We're going to be using these beautiful peonies, and I got these from Amazon. Both of these bundles came together. They're like $9.99. I'll link them down below if you're interested. But I decided to go with the darker color, and they are so gorgeous, y'all. I just snip them down to the base and just hot glue them exactly where the flowers are on the calendar page. And I'm just also going to add in some leaves and some of the little buds, and I absolutely adore this. Just want to take a moment and say hi everybody, I'm Gwen. Welcome, so happy to have you here. If you're not subscribed, I'd like to invite you to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying my content. If you're returning, thank you so much for returning and supporting my channel. I truly appreciate you. After I finished adding in all the flowers, I took a step back and was just looking at them like, it's so pretty, but it's just too many flowers. So off camera, very carefully, I used my blow dryer on low heat and removed that flower that was in the top right corner. Just made a very simple bow with some ribbon I've had on hand. I believe that both came from Walmart. And just tied it in the center with a zip tie. And then to cover up that zip tie, I'm going to use this beautiful button. And this came from Hobby Lobby. And y'all, I did not know this until recently. They have the most amazing prices on their buttons, and they are so high-end looking, and I just love this one. And I think this was the right choice. Y'all have to tell me at the end when you see it. And did I make the right decision removing the flower and replacing it with the bow? But anyway, I came back, made a simple little hanger with some more of that beautiful ribbon, and just gonna tap it down with my popsicle stick, and then just add another little piece over the bottom just to keep it secure. I forgot to fill in the holes at the top of the heart before I painted. So to cover those up, we're going to use these jewel stickers from the Dollar Tree, and I think it complements the button in the center of the bow so beautifully, and is just the perfect finishing touch. It's a little over the top even for me, but I love this. I am all about some pink and black and white. That's my jam, but I would like to know what y'all think about it. For this DIY, we're going to be using this calendar from the Dollar Tree and this cutting board that I had left over from fall. We're going to start by removing everything from the front of the cutting board, and I'm just going to use my little scraper and stick it up under this round part and just work it all the way around. You don't have to push too hard, just a little bit of pressure because it's just stuck there with some glue, and just work all the way around. Just use a little caution that it doesn't slip and cut your hand. You can wear a glove if you prefer. Now just continue to work it all the way around until this top round part just pops right off. And as you can see, it did tear the brown paper just a little bit, but that's okay. We're going to peel all that off, and this just peels off very, very easily. I gave it a good sand down, but it still had some texture and felt a little rough. So I just flipped it over to the back side and gave it a good wipe down and gave it 2 coats of Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White. I chose the picture of this cow from the calendar, and I think she's so adorable and just so sweet. And I guess it's a she. We're going to go with the she. But anyway, I'm just doing as detailed or fussy cut as possible. I want to get all the details of her ears and across the top of her head. And we're only going to be using the cow from this picture. Y'all, I need your help. I'm considering changing the day and time that I upload my videos. I'm just not sure that 7 p.m. on Sundays is working anymore. So if you don't mind, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what day of the week you watch videos, around about what time it is, and then I'm going to take a look at everything and then make a decision. It won't be immediate. I'll let everybody know if I'm going to keep it the same or make some changes. But again, sure would appreciate your help. Thank you so much. I want to mimic the background of the calendar page, so I'm going to use a ruler and just a plain old pencil, draw in some faux shiplap lines, and once I get those drawn in, I'll use the tip of my finger and just lightly run it over those lines and around the edges of the cutting board, just to smudge it out and give it a bit of a distressed look and make it look even more like that calendar page. This step is optional, but the back of this cutting board's a little bit rough, and I want it to have a nice, clean, finished appearance, and especially if you're going to give it away or sell it, or it may be seen from the back side, you do want to cover it, and I'm just using some of this vinyl from the Dollar Tree. So I'm just putting down the layer of Mod Podge. You don't want to put too much because these calendar pages do have a tendency to wrinkle. Now, spoiler alert, I did have a little bit of wrinkling, but I'll show you in a minute how I fix that. just going to use a piece of plastic wrap to smooth everything out, squeegeeing out any air pockets or bubbles or excess Mod Podge that might be under there, and then I'll just repeat the exact same process on the other side. Put a piece of plastic wrap down, and then I used my brayer on top to just make sure all the edges were sealed in, and y'all, right in the center towards the bottom was still this bubble that I could not get out. So I just put down a piece of parchment paper and used my heat press and just gently went over it, and it just smoothed it right out. Then I just went around the edges with my nail file and removed that excess paper. To me, you can't really have a farmhouse piece if you don't have some twine somewhere. So we're just going to add some twine to the handle of the cutting board. I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue to attach the twine to the back of the cutting board, and then just wrap it around the handle. Now this could actually be a two-sided piece if you wanted to do so. I might come back at a later time. I tried to place the twine and the hot glue as carefully as I could to make sure it could be covered up by a bow or greenery or something if I decide to come back and make this two-sided. We're going to keep this bow very, very simple to go along with the rest of the project. I'm just going to fold over my ribbon like I'm making an awareness ribbon, pinch it in the center, and then just tie it off with some twine. And then once you get it tied off, I double knot mine to make sure it's not going to come undone. Snip off your ends and then just hot glue it to the handle. This project is very monochromatic, so we're going to add in just a tiny bit of color with some of this delicate little greenery. I think this came from Hobby Lobby. I'm recycling it from another project, so not 100% sure on that. And then to finish it off, we're going to pop this sweet little button right in the center, and we're finished, y'all. This is just such an adorable, easy little project to make. And if your kitchen is in the farmhouse style, it would just be a great addition to pop this sweet little cow in your kitchen. For this project, we're going to be using this whitewashed palette plank from Walmart, and it was actually less than $3, y'all. I love it. It's so easy to use. You don't have to do anything to it. And we're going to be using this page from this calendar, and if you don't have this exact one, you can use any red truck picture that you might have on hand. And that's the only part that we're going to be using from this particular calendar. It's just the truck, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out. We're going to add these wooden letters to the top of the sign, and they're from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to be painting them red, white, and blue. For the red, I actually mixed together two colors, real red and barn red, to get the color that I wanted. And then for the white, it's Snow White, and then for the blue, it's Admiral Blue, and all these paints are from Apple Barrel. Now this is a rustic piece, and I felt that this white was just a little too bright. So I decided to go over it with some territorial beige. Did not care for that at all. So once that had dried, I came back with some white paint and just painted it again, set it aside, let it dry. And I decided to use this stencil with these little teeny tiny stars on it. And I'm using Admiral Blue again, and I've tapped off most of the paint because I want the stars to look kind of faded. And I'm just tapping over it, just very gently, trying to prevent it from bleeding. I want it to look rustic, but I don't want it to bleed. If you want your stars darker, you can just continue to go over them until you've built it up to the color that you want. We're going to use another stencil from that packet from Amazon. Y'all, these are so nice. I'll make sure I link them down below for you. But I want to make sure I don't have any bleeding, so I'm just using some Mod Podge on one of these sponge daubers and just tapping it all around the stars. And then I'll let that dry, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to use more Admiral Blue, and I'm tapping off the excess paint and just very lightly tap, 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 and pouncing around over the stars. If I don't get it quite as dark as I want on the first go around, then I did go back in certain areas and just darken it up just a little bit. This time we're going to use my absolute favorite way to decoupage and what I call the iron-on method. I'm just putting down my layer of Mod Podge, let that dry, then I'll line up my truck as best I can, put a sheet of parchment paper over it, and then I'll use the heat from my iron to reactivate that Mod Podge, and it causes your truck to adhere to your surface. I'm using wood glue from the Dollar Tree to attach the letters. You can use whatever glue you have on hand. Now, once I placed the S, it kept kind of bowing up, I guess because I'd put so many layers of paint. To help hold it in place until it dried, I just put a sheet of parchment paper over all 3 letters and then set some paint on top. I thought the end of the board that had the stars looked a little plain, so I'm just going to wrap some twine around that end about 5 times, and I've painted 3 beads, 1 square, 2 round, and I've distressed them a little bit with some of that territorial beige, and then I'm just going to thread them onto the twine and then center it up as best I can. Now, to keep my beads from sliding up and down once I get the blue one on, I will tie a little tiny knot right at the end and use a bit of hot glue right on top of that knot, and then I'll slide the blue bead back down and it'll hold it in place and keep it from sliding up and down. And then I'll just attach the other end to the back side of the board with a little more hot glue, and y'all, we're finished. This was just such a simple and easy little project. I think it is so adorable and just perfect for the upcoming patriotic holidays. This turned out so super cute, and it was really easy to make. You can leave it as a hanging sign or remove the hanger and have it as a shelf sitter. You know, whatever works best for you. Let me know what you think about it. For this project, we're going to be using this beautiful picture of daisies and this wood square from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to go ahead and give the wood square 2 coats of this acrylic paint from Apple Barrel in the color Green Marsh, and I've painted it front and back. Once the paint is dry, I'm going to put down a layer of Mod Podge and let that dry because we're going to be using the heat method to attach the calendar page. Now, you may be wondering why I painted this sign such a dark color, because usually when I decoupage, I like to use a light color. But these calendar pages, they have writing on the back side, and sometimes when you use a lighter paint, that writing can show through. And I have found that using a darker color with these, it helps prevent it from showing through. Anyway, to use the heat method, I'm just putting a sheet of parchment paper over my calendar page to protect it, and my iron on medium to low heat, and then just run it over the entire surface of the calendar page. It reactivates that Mod Podge and causes your picture to adhere to the sign. And then I'll just use my nail file to remove any excess paper hanging over the sides. I'm recycling these crates from other projects. They were already painted white. I think it was Snow White from Waverly, but I want to tie them in with the sign, so I've taped off the center to keep that part white, and I'm just painting the stripe, the top and bottom stripe on each of the crate with the same color, marsh green, and then the opposite ends on the crate, I'm going to paint those as well. You'll see what I mean in just a moment because we're going to be gluing them together. One crate is slightly smaller than the other, but once I glue them together and get the greenery in, you can barely tell it. We're going to decoupage the words "Keep Blooming" to the front of the crates, and how I created this, I just printed it off on my inkjet printer onto tissue paper. Y'all have seen me do this before. I just cut down a sheet of tissue paper, the kind you stuff into a gift bag, and I tape it to the front of a sheet of printing paper and then just run it through my inkjet printer. Very simple, very easy to do. If you have rub-on transfers, you can use that as well. I didn't, so I just created this. It's one of my favorite things to do. So simple, so easy, and just very inexpensive. Once I've cut the words out, I'm going to use a small paintbrush and just a tiny bit of water and just dampen that excess paper and just very carefully just tear it away. And I prefer this look. To me, the uneven edges makes it blend in with your surface a lot better. Once I get the placement of my word and the swirls just right, I'm going to very carefully lay a sheet of parchment paper on top, and then I'm going to sit my heat press on top of it. Usually I move it around, but not this time. I'm afraid of moving my word or the swirls around, so I'll just gently hold it on top of each one until that Mod Podge is reactivated and causes them to adhere to the crate. Y'all, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had not hit the record button whenever I attached the other crate, but I just added a layer of the wood glue, and this is from the Dollar Tree. You can use whatever glue you prefer. And I added a layer of glue to the back of the crate, and on this crate I'm adding glue to the end, and I'm just going to line it up as best I can and then press them together and down. Just kind of hold it in place for a couple of seconds to give it time to start to set up. Now this is the end of my day, so I just let it set overnight to give it time to really adhere to each other and to the sign, and then I'll come back the next day and add my flowers. The greenery that we're going to be using, it came from the Dollar Tree, Walmart, and the daisies came from Michael's. And y'all know I like to recycle and reuse my greenery wherever I can, so for this project that's exactly what I'm doing. Of course, you can use whatever you might have on hand or whatever greenery you prefer. I like to mix my greenery. I like to use a variety of colors. I like to use less expensive greenery with more expensive greenery. To me, it's more pleasing to the eye, and it will make your project have a higher end look to it. I love these little purple and yellow flowers from the Dollar Tree. They're just so pretty and delicate to me. And these little white roses, I stock up on these every year when Walmart gets them in. So far, they have not gotten any in yet. I really hope they do, because I love to use them in arrangements like this, because they're just perfect for filling in any little holes that you might have in your arrangement. These sweet little daisies came from Michael's, and they're some of the flowers that I picked up during the spring when they were having that 70% off, and I just love them. They're just so sweet, and whenever I decided to make this project, I'm like, oh my gosh, they are just perfect. We're going to add this beautiful daisy right to the center of the project. I want it to reflect the large daisy on the calendar page. Y'all, I got this at Walmart years and years ago. I actually got 2 or 3 bundles of them, so I don't know if you would be able to find anything like them this year, but they have just held up so well. I absolutely love these. At first I wasn't going to add a bow. I love this piece as is, but I decided I wanted to cover up that hole in the calendar page, so I'm just going to make a very simple bow with this mesh ribbon from the Dollar Tree. Just folded it over, pinched it in the center, and tied it off with some twine. And I also wanted to cover up that twine, so I decided to use one of these beautiful little embroidered daisies, and it's from a roll of trim I picked up from Amazon. I'll link it down below for you. Y'all, it's so pretty. Just going to put just a teeny bit of hot glue on the back of it and pop it right in the center, and this is finished. It is such a beautiful piece. I love this. It's the perfect transition from spring to summer, but I would like to know what y'all think about it. Please tell me down below. I hope I've inspired you today to pull those calendars out and create something beautiful. And if you do, tag me in it on Instagram. I would love to see them. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it, and I will see you soon.